Hi, my name is Tyler Nord. We're here with Verge Beeland of Duluth Area Move to Amend. We'll be doing a quick question and answer about bring people up to speed on Move to Amend, Citizens United, and issues concerning corporate personhood. Verge, thanks for taking the time to be here.
You're welcome. I am glad to be here.
And my first question is, what is Duluth Move to Amend all about?
Okay, and the title, where if they want to look on Facebook, it's Duluth Area Move to Amend. And Duluth Area Move to Amend is a grassroots effort. We're not alone. We're a volunteer organization. There's groups in every state and across the state. But for the most part, the most important thing to realize is why are we here, and that why has to do with, in 2010, there was a Supreme Court decision called Citizens United. And the impact that that's had, it was predicted by some, but I think most are seeing what was predicted that is coming to pass. So that's what we're organized around.
There were predictions concerning what would come to pass with Citizens United. So what is the Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission? What was that all about?
Well, basically, I think it is a lot of, if you actually read the Supreme Court decision, it's very lengthy, but what comes down to is that it pretty much finalized the whole concept of corporate personhood, the idea that corporations are the same as a person, in a legal sense, and then maybe even more of a stretch, that their money is the same as their free speech. And so that's, in a nutshell, that is corporate personhood. I think I would start with that one. If we can get into it further, I'd like to do that.
Well, so what Citizens United makes me think of people standing outside of the White House chanting. Why is this not corporations, and that's not?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because if you were going to identify it as what it really is Corporations United. It has nothing to do with citizens, and almost nothing to do with citizens being united. It has to do with corporations being united against citizens in some cases. In my case, it's a very Orwellian terminology, but it was chosen. It was chosen on purpose because it does sound so good. It does give you that impression.
So is this just American corporations, or do you think multinationals could squeak by on some of this stuff?
Corporations that are organized here in the United States and operate around the world, multinational corporations, are also American corporate citizens, yes.
That must be a lengthy passport for those corporations, I suppose I should say. So then what would be corporate personhood?
Well, actually there's a couple definitions of corporate personhood. And the first one is simply it bestows corporations the ability to engage in commerce, make legal actions. I can sue them, they can sue me, enter into contracts. And so that is widely accepted, and I and Duluth Area Move to Amend have no problem with that concept. But the second one is a lot different than that, and that is corporate personhood is saying that the corporation is the same as an entity that is a living human being. They are a person by definition. They are assuming what was intended for people. So when you hear we the people, you think, well, maybe they meant to include corporations. And the fact is they didn't. They didn't even use the word. In fact, they left out the word corporation, the word corporations. It's not in our Constitution. And you kind of think, well, maybe that's just what's intended. No, for 100 years after the American Revolution, it wasn't legal. The way that corporations are today were not legal for 100 years after the American Revolution.
So somewhere in the late 1800s, something changed and got this ball rolling in the wrong direction?
Good math. Exactly. 1886. And the case was called the Santa Clara County versus the Southern Pacific Railroad. And you would want to go and look into more of that, but that was the first time this whole concept of a corporation being able to take the identity of a person came about. And so it did start back that late term. It wasn't until, honestly, until 2010 that the Citizens United, the Supreme Court decision came about. And so that was more like the frosting on the cake. But it started baking back in 1886.
With Santa Clara versus Southern Pacific Railroad?
Exactly.
And then so, correct me if I'm wrong, Verge, but the Duluth City Council has already voted in support of what you want, of this motion to amend the Constitution so that corporations aren't people, money is not speech. The Duluth City Council has already voted to support that, right?
And not only have they voted to support it, I believe it was unanimous, and also they were the first city in the United States to do that. So you're right, you'd say, well, what's the point of doing that if they've already supported it? And that is, we'd like the citizens also to get to vote. The city councilors got to vote, and I think it's important. If I was a congressman, if I was a legislator, if I was a city council person running for mayor, I would want to know how much support I would have in taking positions that would say, no, corporation, your money is not the same as people's speech, and you are not the same as a person. And I'd like to know where the constituents are on that. How much support is there? It's easy to say 7 people voted for this. What if you get every citizen in Duluth to get a chance to vote on it? And why wouldn't we want that?
That's a really, yeah, you would want to know that. So then, all right, why would people then support it, given the, why would people support the opportunity to have this on the ballot?
Well, again, I think we don't know sitting here for sure, do half the people support this? This has been put on the ballot over 500 communities across the United States. It was put in Wisconsin 13 times last year, and we haven't done this in Minnesota yet. So this is new. Duluth would be putting this as far as Minnesota goes, but across the country it's been put on 500 times. I guess how many times it's passed?
In the state of Wisconsin, how many times? 4. 4 out of 13.
4 out of 13? How about 13 out of 13? And how about out of the entire United States, 500 out of 500 times?
No, okay. So you mean to tell me, this to me sounds like a partisan issue. In Wisconsin, 13 out of 13 people, communities supported this issue. Why should people care about this issue? Why is this both sides of the aisle?
Well, it just is because it affects everything. It affects how taxes are being spent. It affects how taxes are being gathered. It affects what legislation is being legislated. It affects what laws are being tossed out. In Wisconsin, even in Scott Walker's home district, this passed. In the state of Montana, a very conservative, I think I could say Republican state, it passed. In Utah, it's actually passed in 18 states already. And so it's not a, as far as the constituents go, it's not a conservative versus liberal. Across the board, when they've done surveys, every constituency block, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Independent, everyone supports this, the constituent level, by a 70%, a supermajority. So it isn't a partisan issue.
Okay. All right. So then it's not a partisan issue. This is something that strikes a chord with me. What can I do today to support the Duluth area move to amend?
Well, the first thing, I guess, maybe we haven't actually taken this to the city council yet. We'll do that in June or July. So at the earliest, it'll be in June, and it might be in July, and we're going to take it to the city council. But once that's been put there, or even before, it'd be cool if they would call their city council member and say, I'd like this to be voted on. Not even necessarily that I agree with it, just I'd like to see the voters get a chance to vote on it. So they could do that. They could call their city councilors. They could go to if they got a computer at home and they would want to go online, they could go and put in the words petition Duluth City Council, and an online petition would come up.
Petition Duluth City Council.
Yep, that would do it. And if they wanted to come to our next meeting, we meet on the 3rd Monday of every month, and we have since I've been working with this. Tom Starkey and I are the co-organizers. Before I was doing this, a man named Vern Simila, who lives in Virginia, Minnesota, not the state, and he was the person in charge of doing that. And since I've been doing that every month, we've had, since 2012, we've had monthly meetings, and we're kind of peaking out at this point to get to the very, very grassroots of the ballot box. And we want people to get a chance to vote on this in the Duluth City.
That would sound to me like Citizens United. What kind of support do you have?
Well, just as if you're kind of wondering do we have any members, we have 300 members in our Duluth area Move to Amend. And across the city, as members of the National Move to Amend, people who have signed up, petitioned, and said, I want to be part of this idea. Over 1,000 members have done that. We have other organizations that are supportive of this. We'll be bringing those to the City Council, so they'll be hearing more about that. We've got hundreds of petitions already. We've been out petitioning as best we can, getting petitions. And the good news is when we take them there, when people see it, they're very supportive. But we'll be out, they'll see us out in the community, and when they see a table and it says Duluth area Move to Amend, there'll be a banner, and take a look at the petition and sign it. That would be a good thing. So there's a lot of things they could do.
That's excellent.
Yep.
So then, I don't live in the city limits of Duluth. The Duluth City Council, that ballot election, none of that pertains to me. What can I do to help?
Yeah,
what can I do to...
Don't come and vote in the Duluth ballot, but I would hope that this gets voted on in other communities, and I would like to see it happen this fall. How about if Esco and Cloquet and Proctor and Hermantown, Two Harbors, Superior, Wisconsin, why not get this on the ballot in as many communities as possible? And if anybody out there says, well, I think our voters should get to vote on this too, they could contact me through the Duluth area Move to Amend and the Facebook page, and we would help them get that set up. We kind of know some of the ropes. Hopefully we've gotten some input from the Duluth City Councilors that what works good, what kind of language is good.
I get this, when the colors change in Minnesota, the DNR releases that map of the changing colors. I guess we could kind of see that from the Twin Ports spreading out across America of the support for Move to Amend.
I'd like to see that.
I would like to see that too. I'm starting to think, how possible is that color change coming out from Twin Ports? How can we amend the Constitution?
To actually amend the Constitution?
Amend the Constitution. That sounds like quite the feat. How is that even possible? Can that happen?
I guess, how many races have you ever entered that, or one that you didn't enter, I guess I should say. So if you were going to think about, you want to do something, and if you don't try, do you have any chance? So I think the truth is it is very hard. In fact, we wouldn't want it to be easy. If we could amend our Constitution at a whim, every time there was a new president, we'd have new amendments. There's only been 27, but we had one in 1992. We've had one in 1972. We had one that was an amendment that said alcohol was illegal across the country, and 13 years later, we completely reversed it. So to somebody to tell me that it can't be done, it can be done, and not only can it be done, it can totally reverse what has been done. And it has been 27 times.
Yes. Well, maybe I missed something, Virg. Do you have anything you'd like to add here at the end?
Well, one thing might be is, somebody might say this is a lot of mumbo-jumbo. This is just words, the Citizens United and corporate personhood. What issues are you talking about?
That does...
And for me, that issue would be the environment. It would be about global climate change. For me, that's what I would be working on if I weren't doing this. I tend to think that that issue is impacted by this issue, maybe even more so. But for somebody else that might be the inequity gap. And since the 1970s, and how the people who are in the middle have pretty much stayed flat, and all of the new money coming into our economy hasn't really gone anywhere but at the very, very top. Somebody else might suggest, oh, I think it's the military. We're spending a lot of money in the military. 56% of our discretionary money for our federal budget is going to military. I think maybe that's out of line. The one that I think would be really close in my mind is, what about campaign finance reform? And you say, what about that? Right now, we have people that are conducting PACs, super PACs. We have people running for office, and the first place they go is where the money is. They go to dark money. If I wanted to run, I couldn't make enough money going to the people. I've got to go to where the money is. And so that money is helping the people who, the very, very few, elect their leaders as our leaders. They're passing their legislation as there's a legislation that all the people live under, and they're tossing out laws that impact them but are detrimental to the people.
So I
got to make one more point, and that is, you say, well, okay, those are all issues. Every one of those issues was impacted by, not totally caused by, the corporate personhood concept. This whole idea of how things are changing. The best example I would come up with when I was born in 1950, I kind of think Eisenhower. During the Eisenhower administration, the amount of taxes that came in, about 30% of them, 33%, a third of our taxes came in from corporations. Today it's only 10%. Guess who's going to pick up that tab? Somebody's going to pay for it. Somebody has to, or do we pass it on to our children?
Well, that's 23% difference between 10 and 33.
Every year.
Every year. And then the size of the federal government has exploded. The national debt goes up, and corporations seem to be paying less taxes and then are using that money to lobby the government. And is that what you mean by this? Dark money seems like very, very vague.
Well, dark money is vague because it's dark money. It's intended to be vague because you don't know where it comes from, you don't know where it goes. The PACs and super PACs, at least in all of those cases, you end up, after the election, knowing what PAC donated. You don't necessarily know who donated to those PACs, but
okay.
So that is even a little bit of dark money too. But there is another category of dark money where you don't know who voted, who participated.
So dark money is even worse than I expected.
Yes. Worse than I expected, I should say. I don't know what you expected, but it is worse than I expected.
Here, I thought we were talking about lobbyists buying nice golf packages for their favorite congressman, but we are talking about something a little worse than that. I do thank you for your time, Virg. Do you have any more closing thoughts?
Main thing would be that we're not asking for people to vote on this right now. We'd like it to be on the ballot so they would get the chance to vote. So when you call a city council person, you're not saying, well, make sure you vote for it. They already have, and they supported it, I think it was in 2012 or 2011. They've already supported this, but they're asking them to put this on the ballot. And if they put it on the ballot, then the people get a choice to at least give their opinion. And so we're not calling it, it's not even a referendum, it's called an advisory resolution. So it's not even it's not going to cost the city any money, it's just going to get input from the citizens. And so I think getting input from citizens is a valid point. I think it's a very important thing to do.
It sounds rather democratic. Thank you for your thanks for doing this with us.
Thanks,
Virg.
Tyler. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.